Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. In today's session, it is not a talk that I will present, but I shall present an indictment. It is an indictment over the madrasahs, the failure of our madrasah in its duty to the community and to the parents. In successive generations, one after another, with consequences from such a failure, with consequences to all of us individually, before death and more after death, because the consequences after death are irreversible. If only the dead could communicate. I have an obligation which I see rested on me to reveal a piece of truth about what is going on in the functioning of our madrasah. This truth I have is gained by my own long personal experience. Firstly, as a madrasah student for 7 years, ending as a madrasah teacher graduate, and later on in life as a madrasah teacher. Now I should talk about the importance of madrasah. Madrasah is the topmost essential institution. No community, no Muslim community can do without it. It is the madrasah which serves as a springboard to raise a community of Muslims committed to Islam with knowledge that is sound and with beliefs that are true. Anything short of that is not acceptable. In madrasah that I have known of as a student and as a teacher, there has been a rule of depriving students the space for discussion and reasoning, and denying them the independence of cultivating an attainment of their own self-conviction. Students, when they are admitted to the madrasah, they are taught about Allah. But then they introduce Allah to them as God who scares instead of God who cares. The God who is Ghazabgan instead of God who is Meherban. Now that environment of intimidation about sinning against God and the punishment for sinning has no balance about the deeds for which there is reward. Students are given a choice under these intimidating circumstances. Accept what you are taught, or else you are committing a sin against that scaring God. There is a sense of timidity implanted in the mind of students from the very beginning, and that sense of timidity remains throughout the tenure of madrasah. And when they leave madrasah, that sense of timidity assumes the sense of rigidity. They become rigid in clinging to only that have been taught in madrasah, with no mind open to any new reasoning. Now I shall name subjects which need most attention in madrasa, while the attention that is given to these subjects is minimal. The first subject that I feel no justice is being done in madrasa is Tawheed. The teaching of Tawheed in madrasa is shallow, narrow, and misleading. We can never teach students Tawheed without teaching them all the aspects of Tawheed and the philosophy of Tawheed. Now, for that purpose, the numerous verses in the Quran, pertinent verses in the Quran, has to be brought forth for discussion. That's very important. And along with discussion, there should be examples of violation of Tawheed. There has to be examples of the beliefs and practices of shirk, which could be the examples which may be prevailing in the community. For example, some of the beliefs and the practices that we see around in our community are the product of Gulati beliefs and Gulat practices which originate from the Madrasah. And as we know, our Imams have condemned the Gulati beliefs. One of the examples that I can give of the Gulati beliefs, which has its origin from the Madrasah, is the dua Ilahi Azmal Bala. We were taught in Madrasah, Ilahi Azmal Bala as a dua, whereas this dua is an outrageous sinning of shirk. I won't go beyond that at the moment because of time limitation. But unfortunately, most of those who use this dua and those who participate in this dua, they don't even know what they say in that dua. Whereas the truth of the fact that that dua has all the ingredients and all the elements which is contrary to the text of the Quran in matter of Tawheed. Another subject for which there is little attention in Madrasah, and which is very unfortunate, we have never been encouraged to study the Quran in the language that we know on our own. Never. On the contrary, we have been discouraged in doing such a thing by the intimidation that what you read is not to be so understood. It is only Mufassirin know what is said, what is stated in the Quran. Now that's enough to put us off. While in the Quran, Allah says, chapter 28, verse 85, it is a farz to study the Quran. Even Allah says about Tadabbur al-Quran as an assurance of gaining the divine guidance through it. And that is chapter 47, verse 24. But alas, from the age where we are in Madrasah, we are influenced into abandoning the Quran, and no wonder that the Prophet on the judgment day will complain to Allah that his people abandon the Quran, mahjura. Now, the evidence. With regard to the Quran, we can have our self-test. We all have a group of relatives. We all have a group of friends. We have other groups. Ask them at random, a few of them, who are there who have read the Quran from cover to cover in the language that they knew best in the endeavors to study the Quran. Like it made me sad. It will make you sad to know that the majority of them in their entire life, whether at the age of 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, or even 90, haven't read the Quran in the language that they could understand from cover to cover. Even the flyers in our complex, religious complex, say, read the Quran. Not a flyer says, study the Quran. Soma Quran doesn't say, iful the Quran. Now, it is true if the Prophet complains that Quran has been forsaken. But it is very, very sad if such an abandonment is influenced from the very time when students are in Madrasah. Another sad item about the subject that is given minimal attention when it should be given the most possible attention. Salat. When I became a teacher, a Madrasah teacher graduate, like I suppose my colleagues, we were never taught the meaning of what we recited, what we stated, what we testified in Salat. Never. We can even do the test, self-test. I have groups of relatives, you have groups of relatives, you have group of friends, you have other groups. At random, ask some of them who knows the meaning of what they state in Salat. And it will make you very sad that the majority of them will say that they do know something, but they don't know fully what is stated in his Salat. The validity of the Salat itself is put into question. Imagine another subject which has been given too much prominence in the Quran and in Islam, but little prominence, in fact, no mention at all in Madrasah, and that is Hubbullah, the love for Allah. Allah has said, there are verses of the Quran that He is worthy to be loved more than even our own life. Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyai wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. Even my life is ready to be sacrificed in the love of my Lord, Allah. Such a hubbullah is not even mentioned in Madrasah. In fact, there is a distraction from the love of Allah by making others worthy of love more than the love due to Allah. No wonder. There was one person very close to me from another sect of Islam. He tells me that our Islam, the Shia Islam, is Imam-centric and not Allah-centric. Our Islam, he says, revolves around Imam, whereas the Muslims' Islam should revolve around Allah. Now the subject. There are two subjects which unduly is given most attention with false and wrong instructions over those subjects. The one is books of ahadith. Having been put ourselves as a students off from the Quran to study the Quran, then it becomes easy for the madrasa to fill the vacuum. And they impress the students that the books of ahadith is sufficient as a substitute for the source of divine guidance. Having rendered the Quran as mahjura, forsaken, to fill the gap, we are told the books of ahadith, but we are never told that the majority of ulama even said that most of the ahadith are not reliable. In Al-Kafi, there are 16,000 ahadith. 60%, 9,600 are not reliable. Not only not reliable, but most of them do not agree with the text of the Quran. And our imams have warned us repeatedly, by other imams too, we should never believe in any ahadith attributed to them as authentic if they do not agree with the text of the Quran. And there are many. And the last one, the subject which is given most attention when it deserves little attention, is tabarra. Astaghfirullah. Allah has said, there is a concept of tabarra. There is origin of tabarra in the Quran, but in relation to mushrikeen. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. Tabarra means distancing from them. When Allah says that Muslims are brethren to one another, how can we have tabarra among Muslims? When Allah says, chapter 49, verse 10, Allah says, Muslims are brethren to one another. And we divide ourselves into sects. And then we say, tabarra, away with them. Where is ittihad? Our whole strength in Islam is ittihad, unity, now sects. There are 3 verses in the Quran where Allah condemns breaking Islam into sects. However, if we decided to break Islam into sects, okay, maybe Allah will forgive, but Allah will never forgive if on the basis of sects we create animosity, we create hostility among the Muslims. That's not acceptable. This tabarra is not acceptable. Now, to end, I'll give you a good news, but it is a mixture, a good and bad news. World Federation launched a program called Madrasah Center of Excellence. That was launched about 6 years ago. Huge amount of money was invested in it. The program by itself is commendable, however belated. It was long overdue. Unfortunately, when it did come along the journey of history, no justice was done to the program. I notified the MCE team of World Federation before even they produced any report. I gave them the notice of all that is in this indictment. All that I have said now, I've informed them, and they promised me that they would give attention. But when it ended, reportedly, not much has been achieved. The emphasis was laid on the teaching skill more than revamping curriculum and redefining the madrasa role. So now the teaching skill have become sharpened to enhance the very failure which we are complaining about in the indictment. Hence, the indictment stands loud and clear. Wa alaikum assalam wa salam ala man ittaba al-huda.